Welcome to this course on Unreal Engine 5 materials for beginners. I want to make sure to kind of give you an introduction to the different sections and what you should be expecting throughout this course. Section 1, we basically make sure that you can install the project files. Included is an Unreal Engine project with all the materials we make so you can follow along, and also some free assets that I've added to give you a realistic scene to test your assumptions about how the materials are working. From there, in Section 2, we go over the high level, very basics. How do we use the UI? How do we apply the material? How do we create our first one? What does this all look like? From there, in Section 3, we start to get into the meat. We basically say, what are the core nodes, or what are the core building blocks of materials? What are the nodes we're going to be using over and over again? In this section, they kind of do stack on top of each other, so it can be valuable to kind of pay attention by doing them in order. But fundamentally, these are the things you're going to be using in advanced materials and other concepts down the line. From here, in Section 4, we take a deep dive into the Details panel. This is an area of the material editor that allows us to expose additional attributes and properties, different ways of manipulating our material that a lot of people overlook. From here, in Section 5, we look at the material domains. These are the different ways in which materials can be used within the engine that have very special cases. Things like decals and light functions. These things might not make sense to you now, but materials are built specific for some cases that we want to make sure we're aware of. Section 6, which is special case materials. Special case materials are very common things like UV tiling and emissive. Again, if you're not aware of these terms, that's okay. That's why we go over them in the course. But these are very common, very low-level things that will happen to you when you're making materials and you need it to look a particular way. From there, in Section 7, we talk about blend modes. Blend modes basically cover all the different ways in which we can handle transparency, translucency, and there's a lot of different options with very specific use cases. Some of them are more performant, some are less performant, and it's really good to get a handle on all the different types of ways of handling it so we know which one to use in the right scenario. From there, we look into material organization. This is paramount for the success of you to be able to organize, clean up, know what's happening in your materials, and look back at them in the future. It's also really great to learn this early, especially if you're working with a team, to make sure that others, when they look at your material, understand what's happening. From there, we're going to go into a master material setup. This is a fancy way of saying we can make one material that can do a lot of things for us in a very clean and organized way. We kind of cover all the main high levels of that, and it allows you by the end of this course to not only have the fundamental skills, but also be set up to work really good on your projects or with others. And in Section 10, we just have a summary. We talk again about all the things we've learned and kind of go back through it. So at a high level, by the end of this course, you should have a mastery of all the fundamental nodes, how to optimize your materials, and have a really strong understanding of what should be required to make beautiful materials that really make your projects and your portfolio pieces pop. If that sounds exciting, let's get in the first section and start learning. I wanted to include a quick section about how to be able to access the project files and all the materials and examples we will be creating throughout this course. So here you'll notice that I have already downloaded the course zip file. So I have WinRAR or 7-zip or any kind of unzipping software. But once you've downloaded the file from the lecture that's going to be attached to the course for this particular video, we want to be able to take this and double click to open it. And you can see here I am using WinRAR license, and you're going to notice there's a config, a content, and the project file. Once I have all these files, I can either just click them all and extract to a file, or I can come up a folder and extract the entire zip. This is what I prefer to do. And then once we do that, let's do extract to, and then wherever you want to, I'm just going to click on desktop, click new folder, and it's going to name the folder the exact same thing, Material Editor Course. And I'm going to hit OK, and you're going to notice it's going to unzip. Once it's done, you can actually see up here in the upper left-hand corner, it's actually added a folder to my desktop. So again, feel free to install this wherever you want. Once we double-click to open this, you should see a config folder, content, and the actual Unreal project. Once we have this, all we need to do is double-click on it, and you're going to notice it's going to create some folders. So intermediate, save. These are a lot of like data caches, things like that it'll create for the first time. And once that's done, it will open up Unreal Engine. Now from here, what we can do is if we want to see the test levels, we can go to the content drawer. And inside of that, we have this Material Editor Beginner Guide. If we open that up and this Desk Studio Assets, we have a map folder. This map folder is called Desk Studio P. And in here, we'll notice this is the kind of the assets being previewed. This gives you a lot of ideas. We also have access to all the different models, and we have access to all the materials that are created throughout this course. So if you ever have a question about how something's made, you can always refer back to this project file to feel free to follow along, or if you just want to see how something's built, please just use this project file. So hopefully this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So let's talk about how you can use the project files to better learn and educate yourself. So I've provided this little setup that I've built, and it is a little temp scene. It's nothing too fancy, the modeling isn't super great, but it should give you a good basis for understanding how the different materials work. So we've added some different things for transparency, for emissive. Some of these terms you're going to learn later on in the course. And I want you to feel free that as we make examples, which if we take a look at the structure, so once you have it downloaded, you should see it kind of broken into two different categories. There is the Desk Studio Assets, and then there's just materials. And the materials are all the different examples that are created during this course. So if you ever need a refresher to come back, those are all available to you. But I also wanted to make sure that you had a little test area that was available that wasn't just primitives. So if there's ever a technique that we go over or an idea, feel free to come in here and edit the colors or apply new materials and just test things out. It's always nice to have something that feels a little bit more real than just spheres and cylinders. So just to give you a high level, at the end of the course, we'll be talking about master materials. So some of these objects that are in here, we don't need to understand completely right now, but later you should be able to come in here and change their colors and try different configurations just to see if anything fits for you. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that you can, throughout this course, try to apply the different materials we make to these assets so that you get a more realistic understanding of how you could use them or apply them in different scenarios. So hopefully these assets come in handy, and I'll see you guys in the course.